welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing happy, amazing and positive as always. Today I'm going to bring you guys another true crime case, and this is the case of Alexis Sharkey. But before I do that, I'm going to give my usual disclaimer that all pieces of information that I've found has been through the internet, through videos, news reports, blogs, things of that nature. So I understand that not every single piece of information will be 100% accurate, but I've done my best to provide as accurate information as possible. A trigger warning, I do talk about a lot of violence and gory details, things like that. So if this is something that you're sensitive to, please click out of this video now. I've got a lot more lighthearted content that you could watch. My true crime videos are to bring domestic and family violence awareness. This is purely for educational purposes only. So this case really hit home to me, and that is because Alexis was only 26 years old when she died, when she was murdered, I should say. She was a social media influencer. She had, lots of followers, and she was like kind of a public figure. People really looked up to her, and just to see this beautiful young woman living her best life, her life to be taken so tragically and so out of the blue is really upsetting. You just never know what could happen to you, and you never really know what people posting on social media is true or not. Is their life really that happy? Is their life really that glamorous? What's really going on behind closed doors? So I thought I would dive into this case purely because one is unsolved, and this is still a mystery. I mean, I want to be careful with my words, but you will see suspicions about a particular person that could be involved, but like I said, this is unsolved. There has been no convictions. Investigation is still underway. So yeah, let's get into this case, and you guys tell me who you think did it or what happened. Before I get into this case, please don't forget to subscribe, like and comment on this video. It will help me out so much. Alexis Sharkey was a beautiful young woman who was born on the 6th of February 1994 in Pennsylvania, America. She was an Aquarius, and she unfortunately died just a few months short of her 27th birthday. So young. Alexis had two sisters, and her family were really close. They were a very close-knit family. They supported each other so much. They loved each other endlessly, and they were all Christian, and they were quite conservative. Alexis was such an intelligent young woman. When people spit out random facts and they really know what they're talking about. If she hears something, she's not going to jump on the bandwagon. She's going to do that research for herself. She's always Googling things, always finding out things. She was very knowledgeable. She was always just willing to learn. She graduated from the University of Pittsburgh, and there she studied biology education. And after she finished this degree, she wanted to go into medical school after. But after she graduated, she decided to take a gap year. But while in school, she was like the regular kind of student, partying, being social, making friends, that sort of thing. But when it came down to studying, she would really buckle down and study as hard as she could. And because she did this, she was a straight A student, and she graduated one of the top of her class. And this is like such a huge achievement. Even though she graduated, top of her class with this particular degree, she didn't actually pursue a career in that. And like I said, after she finished school, she wanted to take a gap year or gap few years. I don't really know what her plan was, but she did take some time off after graduating university. In this time, she wanted to travel, work a little bit, make new friends. She wanted to go through new life experiences and that sort of thing, and just be a free bird for a little while. Because she studied so hard, she felt like she deserved some time off. All her friends would describe her as this happy, bright, positive light in everyone's lives. Everyone that knew her never knew her to be like a grumpy, moody, rude person. She was so down to earth. She was so relatable. She was so kind. And on top of that, she really knew her political stuff as well. And people just absolutely adored her. In this year that she was taking off studying, she moved to Odessa, Texas. And in Odessa, she worked in a sports bar called Twin Peaks. Twin Peaks is kind of like Hooters. You kind of get the gist of it. A lot of men come into the bar. In Odessa, she made some really, really good friends. She became really good friends with some of her co-workers, which is totally what you want when you move to somewhere new and scary and, you know, you don't know anyone. So she quickly made friends because she was a people person. And, you know, in her days off, she would go out with her friends, she would go tanning, go shopping, all that sort of girly things that she really wanted to do in this time off studying. You know, she was just living a great life, a very chilled life, and she just did what she wanted to do. When she moved to Odessa, she was actually engaged, but soon after the engagement broke off and she was going through a really, really tough time. You know, moving to a new place, just getting out of a relationship, it was really hard on her. It absolutely was not easy. So because one of her co-workers knew that she was going through this breakup, she thought she would introduce Alexis to one of the regulars that was known very well throughout all of the workers at Twin Peaks. So the friend introduced Alexis, and Alexis started talking to this man called Tom Sharkey. Tom Sharkey would eventually go on to be Alexis's husband. When they talked, the two hit it off right away. It was that instant spark. It was that firework, you know, feeling. He made her laugh. He was 6 foot. He was muscular. For her, he was a very sexy man. They talked about anything and everything, and they were quite open with each other about, you know, their past relationships and that sort of thing. And Tom told Alexis that he was actually married a couple of times before, and in one of those marriages he had a couple of kids. And of course Alexis had no issue with this. Tom really loved adventure. He loved traveling. He would actually travel quite a lot with this line of work. So he was a consultant in the oil field, but he would also make glass bottom pools. So he would travel around and make these really beautiful pools in many different countries, many different businesses, many different houses, stuff like that. At the time Alexis met Tom, he was 47 and she would have been about 24 at this time. But the age really was not a factor, didn't really faze Alexis or Tom, because Alexis felt really excited near him because, you know, he was older, he experienced a lot more life, he was well traveled, and, you know, this really excited Alexis because she sort of wanted similar things that he had already done. They really grew to love each other and they started this brand new relationship, and it was magical, so it seemed. With what Tom did in his line of work, he was actually quite well off financially, and together they would travel all different places for Tom's work as well, and they would post all over social media, you know, them going to all these new places, traveling together, on the road together, that sort of thing. They just seemed like what people say, couple goals. They just seemed so obsessed with each other, so immersed in each other's presence. And you know, they had a cat together, and, you know, they were just like this perfect little family. But some people were quite mean about their relationship, and reason being because Tom was a lot older. So often people would say, you know, things like, how did he get her in the first place? You know, he's punching above his weight, that she's way out of his league. He did obviously look a lot older, which he was, and people would just really kind of put him down for that. You know, there's a lot of younger women who do like more older and mature men. And of course, if it's within, you know, the legal age, I don't see an issue with that. Despite what people were saying, Alexis really did not care. She was happy with Tom, and that's all that really mattered for her. So in 2018, Alexis started feeling really, really bored with her Twin Peaks job. She wanted more to excite her. She wanted more from a job. She wanted to feel more satisfied. So she started working for a hair and skin company called Monet. Monet is an MLM company, and it is kind of controversial because it uses affiliates to make money and to make commissions. So what that means is you have to recruit more and more people to work under you to make that money. So yes, it's about the sales of the products, but it's mostly about recruiting more and more people to work under you. And the more people you hire and the more on top you get of the pyramid scheme, that's when you really make the money. So that's why it is controversial, because most people, they actually lose money in companies like this, and you have to be really at the top to make those big bucks. It is deemed as an unethical form of business. And when you're working in a business like this, you have to really sell the dream. You have to promote all the traveling you do, or the freedom you have, you know, from working from home, and, you know, really just like making money by being social. That's really what it is. She met a lot of girls through the Monet brand. They would do business trips together. They would travel a lot. They attended events together, and a lot of it was filmed. So I'll put some clips in. You can see how great her life looked, you know, going to this like amazing events and stuff like that. And you have to show them this beautiful life that is away from the regular 9-to-5 job. And this really draws people in. So despite all the controversial issues regarding MLM companies, Alexis was exceptional at her job. She was so good. She was really good at recruiting people. She was really good at selling the dream. You know, she was always on social media posting about her life and stuff like that. And she made her way up very quickly. She was an absolute natural with her job. She was good with people. She really knew how to talk to people, and like I said, sell this dream. This job really appealed to her because she was able to work remotely, so from home, from other countries, from other states, anywhere at any time. And this was really good for Tom as well, you know, because he was traveling a lot for his work. So she would often go with him, and she would do her work and he would do his work, and it was great. It worked out for her, and it seemed like she was making pretty good money from it. In early 2020, you know, this is around coronavirus. This is when COVID-19 started, you know, just before 2020. She became executive director, and to move up that quickly is huge. And, you know, like I said, she was a natural, so she did it like that. So with this executive director position, she was literally one under the top position, which is amazing. Her uni degree actually didn't come to waste, because she would use her biology knowledge and her education to actually promote and sell these products. So they both worked hand in hand with each other, and it really worked out for her. Monet really relies on social media to promote their products. So Alexis was always on social media promoting their products, promoting this lifestyle. She always, you know, had her phone in her hand. She was always checking her social media. So through this job, she actually gained about 20,000 followers on Instagram. She actually hated being called an influencer. She would prefer a mentor or a businesswoman. Alexis loved the glamorous lifestyle. She loved her luxury brands. She loved to go out. She loved to get dolled up. You know, take all her Instagram pictures, make sure that they were all perfect. She was known as the social media queen amongst all the people that she knew. She would post about her traveling, her food, her friends, what she was wearing, pretty much everything. Most of her life was documented through her Instagram stories. Sometimes she was a little controversial as well. She would post about, you know, COVID-19 and what was going on with the pandemic, or what is going on with the pandemic. She was very outspoken. Even on her bio, it says, always on my story. So she's letting you know that she's always posting on her story. In 2019, Tom and Alexis got engaged, and together they moved to Colorado. And as you can see by these pictures, they looked so happy. A few months after being engaged, they decided to tie the knot in December in a courthouse wedding. They moved again to Houston, Texas, where they got an apartment in a gated community. This gated community was super like safe and secure. You know, if someone rang your bell, it was a ring bell, so you could see anyone outside, like who's ringing the bell. You could even talk to them through the speaker, despite whether you're at home or, you know, at the shop somewhere. You can talk to people through your phone that's connected to the Ring doorbell at your house, if you didn't know what a Ring doorbell was. So this apartment complex was in a gated community. There were pools in every kind of complex. I think there were like 3 pools. There was one gate that led directly outside, but when you actually look at the street, it doesn't look like somewhere where you would like go for a nice stroll. You know, it wasn't like a nice, you know, luxury or great area. So Alexis didn't, you know, just go off on walks by herself. There was an industrial area nearby. There was a really big forest nearby as well. And the area was quite close to a highway as well. There weren't that many like restaurants or anything either that were close by. You kind of had to travel a little bit to get to like close restaurants and bars. But when she would go, she kind of would jeopardize her privacy a little bit, because she would tag where she was while she was there. And with a following of that many people, that is a little dangerous. You know, I know a lot of people with lots of followers, they normally tag the place after they've left, or even a couple days after, just so that no one follows them, or no one, you know, stalks them or drives to them and harasses them or anything like that. People started becoming a little skeptical of how much Tom Sharkey was actually earning. There's a video of both of them, and Alexis asks Tom how much he's getting paid for this new pool, like a glass bottom pool that he's putting up for someone.
So we're going on a stroll. We're going to dinner up in Montana.
What's up, everybody?
Okay, so tell them how much the man is paying for you to put a pool in his house.
$8 million.
$8 million! Who are you?
So people were like, if you're getting paid $8 million, how come you live in just like a kind of normal apartment complex? Can't talk today. You know, how come you're not living in like a proper house, or more of like a lavish house in a more of a lavish area? So it made people wonder, are they kind of lying about how much they're really earning? Are they hiding financial issues? You know, were they being a little tight-lipped about their financial situation? There could be many reasons why they didn't live in a house. Maybe they were thinking to buy later on. Maybe because they didn't want to buy a house because they were always moving. Or they didn't want to settle and buy a house and be committed to a house, you know. And sometimes what people put on social media isn't really what's going on. So who knows? So while Alexis is in this apartment complex, you know, she would go to the pool and stuff like that, chill out by the pool. And she would kind of get a lot of unwanted male attention. There was a lot of attention that she didn't really like, and she felt really uncomfortable by. So while she's in Houston, Texas, she needs to make new friends. She wants to make new friends, so she downloads the app called Bumble BFF. So this is where people aren't really looking for love on this app. It's more just to look for friends. And she came across these two girls called Tanya and Kendra. Tanya and Kendra were actually from one friendship group, but neither of them knew that they were kind of like matched with Alexis. So they were both kind of like talking to Alexis for a month before they decided to all meet up. And they hit it off straight away. You know, Tanya and Kendra were already friends, so that was already established. And then, you know, they're kind of bringing this new girl with them, and they just hit it off. They had a lot in common. They became really great friends. They only really knew each other for under a year, but through this time frame, they grew to be very, very close with each other. It's not clear whether she was looking for these friends to recruit more people into the business, or she genuinely just wanted friends. In my opinion, I think she just wanted friends, because she wasn't working in a place like she was before at Twin Peaks, where she could meet people in the flesh. She was, in a way, quite isolated in terms of meeting people. There's COVID-19 at this time, so you're not really like going out to meet new people or anything like that. So she relied on this app to make new friends. So because Alexis and these girls really hit it off, she decided to introduce these girls to her Monet friends. And they kind of formed like a little group together, and they had a group chat going. They were constantly communicating that they would always go out, they would always spend time together, always hang out. And Alexis was the person to always be responding in the group chat, whether it be her starting conversations or her being the first one to respond to anyone that messaged. She always had her phone in her hand. So it's like she was just always communicating with her friends. An interesting thing to note is that when Alexis would hang out with these girls, she didn't really talk about Tom very much. This is her husband, like, you know, she's not really talking about him, and she's not really like inviting him to hang out with her friends or anything like that. You know, the other friends had boyfriends as well. Tom did meet the friends and meet the boyfriends, and once in a blue moon would hang out with everyone, but not as often as you would think when you've got like a husband. When it did come to her personal private life, she was quite tight-lipped. She didn't really say too much, and that's kind of understandable. You know, these girls are quite new. I wonder if this was a way for her to portray that everything was fine and that nothing was going wrong. I wonder what was actually really going on in her head and at home. And I also wonder why she wouldn't want Tom with her. This is still relatively a new relationship. I feel like, you know, was she trying to get away from him? When she was with her friends, did she feel like more herself? And she didn't want him there because he would just be like this kind of dark cloud. I don't know, like there could be a lot of reasons. Maybe she just wanted to hang out with her friends on her own. I don't know. It's like it's really hard to tell. I even noticed like eventually she stopped posting about him that much as well. In the beginning she was posting all these videos all the time and all these pictures with Tom, but slowly they kind of decreased and it was more just her with her friends or her on her own. And I just found that quite interesting to note. When this pandemic really hit, she downloaded TikTok, like probably majority of the world did. I know I did. She featured her cats in it. You know, she was like this goofy person. So she was, you know, really like showing her personality through these videos. She would promote her Monet brand as well, the products on there. She would be goofy with her friends. There was this one video of her showing her like massive crystal collection that she had, and I love crystals, so this really stuck out to me. I wasn't sure if she just liked collecting crystals or if, you know, she was actually a spiritual person and she believed in the healing powers of crystals. And closer to Halloween as well, there was a video with her husband, Tom, as well, and they dressed up as Vikings, and, you know, it seemed like kind of a nice, fun video that they did together. Seemed like they had a lot of like chemistry, and, you know, it seemed like things were okay. So in November 2020, Alexis went to Tulum with her friend. She seemed to have a really great time. She even joked that she was actually going to move there, but Tom was nowhere to be seen. But I mean, a girl can go on a holiday with her friends without their partners. That's perfectly normal. So when she came back, it was closer to Thanksgiving time. She did consider going back to Pennsylvania to spend Thanksgiving with her family, but then decided to not go. So she told her mum that she's not going to be going for Thanksgiving, but that she'll be there for Christmas. And her mum was a little disappointed, but she was excited for Christmas because she hadn't seen Alexis in over a year, and that was probably because of COVID-19. Obviously there's like travel restrictions, but then, you know, she was traveling with Tom, and I don't know if she put it down as like business, so she had to travel. I'm not too sure. It's not really clear why she actually decided to not go back to Pennsylvania. Alexis's mum said that it was kind of odd for Alexis to not visit as much as she used to because, you know, they were really close and she would visit all the time, and it gradually kind of slowed down, and, you know, it was over a year since she last saw her family. But her family kind of thought, okay, she's married now, you know, she's got a whole new life, a whole new job. She's traveling with her partner, so they didn't really think too much into it. It wasn't really like a huge red flag for them. They just kind of respected that her life, her dynamic in her life had changed. So Thanksgiving Day rolled around and Alexis texted her mom back and forth a little bit, and Alexis stayed home with Tom and spent Thanksgiving Day with him, and they just had a Thanksgiving lunch and nothing was out of the ordinary there. And in the evening, Tanya had a Thanksgiving dinner at her house. So Alexis got ready and went to Tanya's house, but did not take Tom, which is kind of unusual because Alexis did love her holidays. But she decided to not bring her husband, but maybe because she spent the day with him, she thought she'd spend the evening with her friends. So she stayed at Tanya's house till about midnight, hung out with her friends, had dinner, had a really, really great time. And at about midnight, she leaves. One of her friends picks her up from Tanya's house and takes her to a couple of bars nearby. And she stayed out with this friend till about 3 in the morning. So when it was time to leave, Alexis messaged Tanya to say that she was going to come by and pick up her things that she hadn't taken with her when she went to the bar with her friend. But because it was 3 a.m., Tanya was already asleep, but Alexis went anyway to pick her car up. And after that, she allegedly drove straight home. So the next day was Black Friday, and Black Friday is a very known thing, I think, worldwide. You know, lots of sales on, lots of promotions, great time for sellers to sell and to promote their products and their services. That day, it was expected that all the Monet girls post promotions and post all their posts. I feel like I'm saying posts so many times, but posting all their, you know, products and whatever promotions that they were offering at the time. So all the girls got up really early, started posting straight away and, you know, getting all that out there before the rush really started. Everyone posted but one person, and that was Alexis. And this was so like beyond strange for her, because hello, she's like the executive director, especially because it is such an important day for brands and businesses. So she didn't post at all, not one post. This was so odd. This is where things get even weirder. So she doesn't post all day on her social media about anything, Monet, anything in her personal private life, nothing, absolutely nothing. But then at around 5:30 to 6 p.m., the girls get a message from Alexis on the group chat asking if anyone wanted to hang out that day. But because Thanksgiving weekend was still going on, people had families over, people had things planned, the girls were all busy. Alexis was like, okay, that's fine. And they all kind of planned a meetup the next day to just have a movie night with all the girls. But at this point, no one really asked Alexis like, hey, how come you didn't post anything today or anything like that? I guess they're not really looking at who's posting and who's not. They just kind of do their thing and, you know, they go on with their day. No one like really noticed that she hadn't posted. This message, when you look at it now, it's so strange. Like if she's not posted anything, she's just randomly appeared and is texting, it makes you question, was it really Alexis texting or was it someone else using her phone to make fake plans so it looked like she was okay? Or could it have been that she was having a really, really bad day and did not feel like posting anything or going on social media and just wanted to see her friends? But at the time, nothing seemed too strange. That same night, on the Black Friday night at around 11 p.m., Tom texts one of the girls' boyfriends to ask if he had seen Alexis. Firstly, that is a really weird thing just to text. Like if you're genuinely concerned, wouldn't you call? And obviously this friend's boyfriend was like, what the heck? So he calls Tom straight away after he receives the message and he's like, what's going on? What do you mean she's missing? What do you mean she's, you know, gone? And Tom tells this friend that they had an argument that night and she stormed out barefooted, climbed over a fence and got into a black vehicle. It wasn't just a random car that she was going to drive. There was actually someone there apparently in the car waiting for her to be picked up. Tom says that that was the last time that he had heard or seen Alexis. This friend immediately was like, okay, this story is really weird. Like something's not adding up, you know, something really wasn't sitting right with him. But he tried to be as sensitive as possible towards Tom's situation because he seemed like he was in a bad place. So he didn't want to like question it too much. But they spent 45 minutes on the phone together. And what they spoke about in the whole 45 minutes is not known. But this friend does recall feeling a little uneasy about the whole story. And, you know, my thoughts are like, why was she climbing a fence? First of all, why did she not just go out the front door? Why is she barefooted? Wouldn't you put shoes on? Who is in this black car? I'm sure as Tom, like who's her husband, wouldn't kind of recognize her friend's cars and recognize whose car that could have been. And her friends said that they were all busy that night, so it couldn't have been one of her close friends. So there's just so many questions here and so many things that just don't really make sense in his story. So during this investigation of what's happened to her, and I feel like I am forwarding a little bit, but I just want to make this clear that, you know, why this doesn't sit right with me is because his story changed a few times. So remember how I said she was barefoot, Then he changed it to she was wearing running shoes and she was wearing sweats. He also at first says that she left her phone at home. Then he says that she actually took the phone with her and he used the tracker app to track her phone, and he followed her in his car to see where she was going while looking at his phone, tracking her. But then he says his phone lost signal and he lost her. And then after he loses signal, he decides to drive to a gas station to clear his head and calm down a little bit and decide what he's going to do next. And then after 2 hours, he calls around his friends and family, or her friends and family as well, to see if they've heard from her or if they've seen her. It's strange that it took him 2 hours to do that. It is a little suspicious to me. So the next day, her friends are messaging in the group chat, planning their movie night, what they're gonna watch, you know, that sort of thing, planning a cute little girls' night. They notice that Alexis is the only one that's not responding. She's not even opening the messages, which did start ringing a little bit of alarm bells, because she was, like I said before, that she was the one who was always responding first and always, you know, making sure that she's communicating with her friends. But none of their messages were responded to by Alexis. So they went on her social media and they saw that nothing was posted in like the past almost day. They started to get a little bit concerned at this point. Now, I'm not sure if Tom had called them to ask them if Alexis was with them. I find it a little strange that they just casually started just messaging on this group chat, knowing that she wasn't found. Are they aware that she's missing? What's the story there? After seeing that nothing was posted on social media, they were like, okay, it's fine. She's gonna turn up to this movie night. So they waited to see if she turned up. And of course, Alexis doesn't show up. And this is when they got really worried, because Alexis was never one to never just show up or, you know, communicate that she couldn't make it anymore. She wasn't even opening her messages. So they really felt in their gut that something was truly wrong. And so Tanya decides to go to Tom and Alexis's apartment. She's ringing the doorbell, she's knocking, nothing. There's no answer. So Tanya goes into her car and kind of debates with herself whether to call Alexis's mum to notify her that Alexis hasn't responded to anything. She's kind of MIA, like, is everything okay? And Tanya was like, you know what, she needs to know. She needs to know what's going on with Alexis. She needs to know that she's not here. Has something happened to her? Is she okay? So Tanya calls Alexis's mum. Alexis's mum says, yes, I'm aware that she's missing. I've been on the phone to Tom and he's told me we're worried about her. We're looking for her. And Tanya's like, oh my God, like this, something is really wrong.
Her mom, Stacy Robinald, says a phone call on Saturday from Alexis's husband of nearly a year changed everything.
What did he say to you?
He said that she's missing, that no one knows where she's at. And at that point, friends began to call as well. I mean, everybody was frantic.
So Tom spent that Saturday calling around people, asking if they've seen her, if they've spoken to her. He told a few people that there was an argument with Alexis before she left. Then he told some people that there wasn't an argument. So it's like, dude, what's the truth? Did you have an argument or didn't you? What's going on? Then her friends contacted the police and filed a missing persons report and frantically post all over social media about her disappearance and whether anyone had seen her anywhere, whether it could be in public, at a cafe, driving somewhere, anywhere. If anyone had seen her, to please contact them. Another thing that really stuck out to me is, why wasn't Tom the one to file a missing persons report? This was like the first thing that I thought. Why was it her friends who have known her only for under a year to file it when her own husband didn't? Despite the fear and the concern, her family and friends were hopeful that she was just taking some time out and that she was okay and everything was going to be fine, you know, because you don't ever think that anything bad could ever happen to someone that you love. So unfortunately, while everyone is frantically searching for her, trying to keep hope, on the 28th of November, so just a couple of days after she first went missing, or when Tom said that she was missing, a body was found. There was a sanitation worker doing his route, and he noticed a pair of legs sticking out from some bushes and some trees. And at first he's like, is that a mannequin? Like, what is that? So he didn't get out because he was a little nervous to approach whatever this was, because he was a little concerned that it was in fact a body. So he calls his supervisor and says, hey, can you come and check out something? There's like a pair of legs from the bushes. Can you come and have a look at what this is? The supervisor comes, his name is John. John comes to the scene and he looks at the body and he sees the legs that his worker was talking about. Upon closer inspection, he realizes that it's actually a real female dead body. She was completely nude. There were no marks on her at all. It was like she was cleaned and, groomed before she was placed there. And it wasn't just a dump. It was like she was neatly placed where she was. There were no scratches, no bruises. The worker was right. She did look almost like a mannequin. And the person that actually placed her there, it's almost as if they wanted someone to find her body. There were really no efforts in fully hiding her body. So then John calls 911 and reports that he's found this body. Then the police call Tom Sharkey to let him know that there has been a body found that matches the description of his wife. Tom is brought in to identify the body, and unfortunately Tom does confirm that it is in fact his wife, Alexis Sharkey.
A naked body discovered by a garbage truck driver near a Houston interstate was identified as Alexis.
Initially, there was no obvious signs of the cause of death. Like I said, there were no marks on her body, there were no wounds or any signs of struggle. You would just almost think that she would have died in her sleep or smothered, so there was like no obvious marks or anything like that. So in the beginning, there was absolutely no cause of death, and it took the medical examiners 2 months to figure out what had happened. And on the 21st of January 2021, which is just this year, they determined the cause of death to be strangulation. She was murdered. That was point blank. When the funeral arrangements were being made, Alexis's mum spoke to Tom and said, I would love to have her body back in Pennsylvania, in Alexis's hometown, to lay her to rest and have everyone there for a private funeral and a private viewing. And Tom was all for the idea. He was cooperative. He was fine with it at first. So as the news and media caught on to the murder of Alexis Sharkey, the public went wild about their assumptions and speculations, and a lot of people speculated that it could have been her husband. Many people were absolutely sure that he was the one that did it. His story really didn't add up. He, received all sorts of abuse online. He received death threats. And I mean, at this point, he's not proved to be the murderer. So, I mean, was it warranted? Probably not, but I understand people's anger, because obviously there's something suspicious really going on. And it just seems almost impossible that he doesn't have a role in this. Some people thought that she could have been poisoned or accidentally overdosed on drugs or smothered with a pillow. Alexis's mum, from the very get-go, knew that there was some sort of foul play involved, because she knows that Alexis wouldn't do something like that to herself. So as the media is going wild and as the public speculation is going wild, one of Alexis's friend actually came forward and told the media what Alexis had actually expressed to her about Tom and their relationship. She said that Alexis told her that her marriage was not going well and that divorce was actually in the cards for them, and they even had papers drawn up just waiting, ready to be signed. Allegedly, Alexis said that Tom was putting hands on her and would sometimes strangle her in times of pleasure, to the point where she would actually black out and wake up on the bathroom floor. So this wasn't just something that was a little fun. It was to the point where she was blacking out, and that is very, very dangerous. Is this something that could have gone too far? Did Tom push it a little too far this time? Is this what could have killed her, essentially? Alexis also expressed to this friend that Tom was abusive, controlling, manipulative, and that they were actually already separated, but that they were living in the same apartment. And honestly, this would kind of make sense as to why she didn't take him for Thanksgiving, or, you know, didn't go back home with him to celebrate Thanksgiving. Alexis also said that their bank accounts were already split. This friend also expressed that Alexis seemed like she was petrified, and that she had expressed once that she was scared for her life. And this friend did not elaborate of what exactly. What we do know is that there was a stalker that Alexis did say that she had, but, you know, we don't really know how serious that was or how accurate that piece of information was. But who was she scared of? Her friends also said that when they went to Tulum together, that Tom would send her really awful and horrible text messages, and, you know, they noticed that her demeanor overall had really changed, and that she wasn't really like posting on social media as much as she used to. She just seemed like something was not right with her, like she was really upset and down about something that she wasn't fully voicing. Now this is where things kind of change a little bit, which is interesting. So while Alexis and her friends were in Tulum, Alexis actually met a guy called Sebastian. He's a DJ in Houston, and when they met, they hit it off right away. She really took a liking to Sebastian. You know, it was like that new fresh feeling, and she really wanted to get to know him a little bit more. This is also another interesting thing to note. That night of Thanksgiving night, where a friend picked her up to take her to a bar, that friend was actually Sebastian. So Sebastian's the one who picked her up that night and took her to these bars. So no one really knows if they were actually dating or what had actually gone on with them. But what we do know is that they were hanging out and they were getting to know each other, and just, you know, enjoying each other's company. You know, there's another question that arises, like, was she actually separated from Tom, or did she just say that to eliminate judgment because she was spending time with Sebastian? Or was it that she was completely over her marriage with Tom and things were not looking great? So Tom refused to really be on the media, talk on the media, except for one interview, which kind of turned to be really sour, and he even ended up hanging up on the reporter.
I asked him about the last time that he had seen Alexis, and he said, I saw her, she was leaving, I told her not to drive intoxicated, she went anyways, and that's where we're at, is what he said. And I said, what do you mean by that? Where was she going? When you asked for specifics or you tried to ask for details, he wouldn't provide those.
It could have been a way to maybe clear his name if he really wasn't guilty. You would kind of do everything in your power to clear your name. I honestly feel like it kind of made him look a little bit more guilty, in my personal opinion. As this investigation with the police furthered, you know, with them trying to find who did this to Alexis, Tom was actually very cooperative with the police. Now, this could mean that he has completely no idea who did this to her and is completely not involved. Or it could mean that he wants to perceive himself to be the one that is not guilty and he's cooperating just to show that he's trying to help in any way, shape, or form. Or it could be that he's trying to be involved in this investigation as much as he can to really know what's going on, what they're investigating, who they're looking at, what's going on, keeping in the loop, keeping up to date, so that if something, you know, happens in their investigation that points fingers to Tom, he can prepare himself in what to do next. I mean, he is the husband, so he obviously needs to be cooperative, because if he doesn't, he's obviously going to look guilty. So Tom expresses also in the media that when Alexis is around Tom, she's her true self. She's upset a lot of the time. She's stressed, she's worried. And he says that she's not the type of girl, she's not the girl that she portrays to be on social media. And he also said that he consoles her a lot. He comforts her, he holds her, and he tries to be there for her as much as he can. And I just feel like, he's trying to paint this picture of him really being there for her. This isn't about you right now. This isn't about you comforting your wife. I mean, that would be an obvious thing, right? You would expect your partner to comfort you in times of need. But he uses these opportunities to make himself seem like he was that loving, caring husband, when in fact, she's telling her friends otherwise. She's told her friends the complete opposite. Her friends also even said that they feel like Alexis would want to hang out with her friends a lot more because it was to get away from Tom and not be at home with Tom. That is a very typical thing for someone who is experiencing domestic violence, to obviously not want to be at home with their abusive partner. Tom completely denies also the argument that he had before Alexis left. He paints this whole picture of like this happy married life when it absolutely wasn't. He denies that divorce was ever on the cards, but when investigators checked his house, they found the divorce papers that were ready to be signed. So it was a complete blatant lie that he was in a happy marriage. He said that then on the night that she left, she could have possibly gone on foot and not gotten into this black vehicle that was waiting for her to be picked up. There's so many changes and so many inconsistencies in his story. It's like you would have seen what really happened. Why is it that your story keeps changing? Is it that if he says he had an argument with her, that he would look guilty, that, he could have done something to her during that argument, Maybe he realized later on that this narrative makes me look really guilty. And also, like I said before, this was a gated community and outside it was not the best area. So where would she go at night by herself? She was not one to jeopardize her safety like that. It almost makes me wonder, like, did they have an argument about getting a divorce? And, that really set him off. And it was sort of the mentality of, if I can't have you, no one else will. And he killed her. Or did he find out that, she had gone to this bar with Sebastian? Did this fight happen after Thanksgiving when she came home late and he was angry that she was home late? And, did she let it spill that she was with Sebastian that night? Because he makes it out as if they had the argument on the Black Friday night. But was it actually when she got back from that bar? It doesn't make sense, because then on Black Friday, she completely stopped talking to her friends. There was just that odd text message asking if anyone was free. But there was nothing on social media, so it kind of makes sense that maybe someone was using her phone. Maybe Tom could have been using her phone to make it seem as if everything was okay, making plans. And maybe later on, if, the friends did say that they were free, he could have cancelled on them later on using Alexis's phone, and the friends would have thought that it was Alexis messaging the whole time. Like, there's just so many avenues, So when it came time to lay Alexis to rest, the medical examiner listed Tom Sharkey as the next of kin. This means that Tom Sharkey had full control of what would happen to Alexis's body, where she was going to be laid to rest, that sort of thing. Like I said before, he had already spoken to Alexis's mum, saying that she was going to be laid to rest in Pennsylvania, in her hometown. But in order to get that official confirmation and permission, she would have to get that from Tom. The really strange thing was that Tom completely stopped cooperating with this. He stopped talking to Alexis's mum. So for 2 weeks, they have no hope that Alexis's body is ever going to come back to the hometown, that they're ever going to be able to see their beloved daughter ever again, you know, because they hadn't seen her for over a year anyway. You know, they wanted to say their final goodbyes, and the family really was starting to lose hope. And because Tom was not responding, the medical examiner then changed the next of kin to be Alexis's mum. And the weird thing was that Tom Sharkey never claimed Alexis's body. So what was happening with her body? It makes me wonder why. Why didn't he claim the body when he was the next of kin? That is so, so strange. But thankfully, Alexis's mum became the next of kin and was able to bring her body to Pennsylvania, where they laid her body to rest, and everyone had their final goodbyes and had a very private funeral and private viewing. Tom continued to tribute his wife on Facebook, and in my personal opinion, they were very superficial, talking about my love and my life, and you changed my life, Alexis. And I don't know, it just didn't seem that deep and that personal to me. I feel like there was no expression of desperation to find the killer and to really fight and to really like put out there that he's looking for this killer. I mean, yes, he's been cooperative. Yes, you know, he has expressed questions to who's done this, but everything is just so me, me, me. In his tributes also, he kept reiterating how happy their life was and kept saying how everything was great and everything was okay, but it wasn't. You know, it was just such delusion. Like, why would you portray this narrative when it's not true? Her friends think that Tom did it. Others think that the friends did it. There was a rumor that went around that Tanya could have been jealous of Alexis, so she could have done it. People think that Sebastian could have done it. People think that Sebastian was the one to pick her up in the black car. Some people also think that, you know, it could have been Sebastian because, you know, he was a DJ. He could have been experimenting with drugs and maybe accidentally overdosed her, and he got scared and just dumped her body. There's also speculation that Tom could have unintentionally killed her, like I said, through the choking, or also because Alexis and Tom did experiment with drugs as well, and you know, she could have OD'd while they were experimenting and he got scared and he dumped her body. There are so many assumptions, there are so many rumors. Another interesting thing to note as well is that she had no clothes on when she was found. So what did happen to her clothes? Were they dumped? Obviously, whoever did this would have removed the clothing to get rid of DNA. Were they removed by Tom and washed and put away to make it look like she was never wearing those clothes? You know, there's just so many questions. Tom denies all accusations and all assumptions that are made about him towards the murder of Alexis Sharkey. Before I wrap up this video, I wanted to discuss some of Tom Sharkey's past and his involvement in domestic violence in his past marriages. The mother of his child wanted sole custody of the child and says that there were detrimental actions by Tom towards the child, and it is in the best interest that the children or the child be in her sole custody. That in itself is a huge red flag right there. What did he do to the kids? What was he treating the kids like? What was happening that wasn't fully expressed? His ex-wife says that he was controlling, he was manipulative, he was abusive. All the same things that Alexis said about him as well. Could this be that this man was just in disguise for a long time and the true Tom came out as their marriage continued? Tom also did a really horrible thing to his ex-wife with revenge, PORN. I don't want to say this because I don't know if I can say that on YouTube. And his reason was that because his wife was not going along with any of the agreements that Tom was trying to make, and to get back at her, he sent explicit images or videos of his ex-wife to her employer. And this sadly is so common in these types of cases where there is a domestic abuser to potentially humiliate their partner and to almost destroy their lives and take everything away from them. And this kind of correlates with how Alexis's body was found, because she was found completely nude. And was this an attempt to humiliate her? There is a little bit of a humiliation tactic connection, but then again, it could just be a big coincidence. His ex-wife also said that he would threaten to take his own life if he didn't really get what he wanted or things didn't go his way. And another friend actually came forward and said that when Alexis went to Tulum, Tom had called this friend and said that he was threatening to take his own life then as well, because things were not going well between them. And also, you know, he would get mad when Alexis would be with her friends all the time. And this makes me question, was he stopping her from seeing her family? Because this is another controlling thing that domestic abusers do, is they control who their partner can see and not see. Or, you know, he could have been insecure because he's a lot older and he looks a lot older than her as well. Was he insecure about this because Alexis was this young, beautiful, free girl and getting all this attention from males? Was he insecure? So did he take her life because he didn't want anyone else to have her? He also suspected that she was with someone else. So maybe he did find out about Sebastian and he lost it. His past behaviors completely link up to what Alexis was saying about him to her friends. And, you know, his behaviors, his narcissistic ways, his possessive ways, his controlling, manipulative ways, they all do connect, and there are major red flags. He's been inconsistent with his stories, he's behaved weirdly, he's lied about things. It makes sense that people suspect him, but at the end of the day, this case is unsolved and we don't know if it truly was him. It could have been that Alexis was mad and she just stormed out of the house after an argument with Tom, and he didn't want to say that it was an argument because he didn't want to look guilty. Maybe that bit is true and she stormed out to go on a walk just to clear her head and not be around Tom for a bit. And, you know, someone could have been out and about that could have done this to her. But it's also, you know, there was no signs of struggle. There would have been like DNA marks under her fingernails or on her body, or signs of struggle, possibly hair ripped out or hair on her. Even if this person that did this to her bathed her and tried to get all the DNA off her, there would still be DNA. There's been nothing that is solid, and there's no solid proof. So like I said, this case does remain unsolved. No conclusions or no arrests have been made from what I can see online at the moment. We don't know if her phone has been checked, where her phone was last pinged, from any cell towers nearby. There's really not much new information out. The police are remaining very tight-lipped about this, but her friends and family are super hopeful that justice will be served for Alexis. Alexis's mum has publicly said that she's going to let police handle things. She's not publicly said, however, who she thinks could be involved. She said that Tom never gave her bad vibes despite the age gap. Never did Alexis ever mention anything negative about him, but who knows what she's truly thinking. I do think it's very brave of her to purely just let the police handle everything. And I do hope that everyone who loved her and miss her have the utmost strength and hope during this time of investigation. Alexis is remembered as a loving person, a beautiful soul who only spread love, light, and positivity. So this is all the information that I have for you guys today. Please let me know what you guys think happened. Who do you think did it? Put your theories down below. Let me know. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Please know that everything that I mentioned in this video, I mean absolutely no disrespect to absolutely anyone involved. This is just a case that I found super interesting and is important for awareness purposes. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I will catch you next week. Stay happy, stay amazing, stay positive. Bye.